Going on? How's everybody doing today? I hope everybody's had a good week. It's been a few weeks since we posted. It has been a few weeks since we posted, but we are back with another video. And this first video that I want to come on here and do is about some Texas Longhorns camp that's been going on. There's a lot of stuff going around this Texas Longhorns football team and the spring camp they're in right now. And I think it's very interesting because I think this is one of the top programs to watch going into the 2026 season. One of the most excited I am to watch. So yeah, we're just gonna get straight into it and kind of talk about a little bit of kind of what's going on in camp. So if you are a Texas fan, then you can kind of be up to date on what we do know so far with pretty much everything. So before we do get into it, I know I said we would get right into it, but before we do get into it, if you're a Texas fan, if you do look at my past videos, I do cover Texas a lot. I'm going to start covering Texas a lot more. Texas is one of my favorite teams in the country, so that's why I cover them. So yeah, lots of Texas content coming. So at the end of this, if you do enjoy, I'd greatly appreciate if you did consider subscribing to the channel because it helps me out a lot. We're back. We're going to be back with daily to weekly uploads. Won't be daily right off the bat because there's really not much news to talk about. But anyways, weekly uploads. Be on the lookout for that. Lots of Texas content. So let's get straight into it. So first off, I do want to talk about absences because there are some key absences from these practices so far. Several Longhorns were held out or limited to start the camp. So some noticeable ones are Ryan Wingo with wrist surgery, Emmett Mosley with ankle surgery, Tyanthony Smith with shoulder surgery, Justice Terry with just recovering his injury, Arch Manning obviously with his foot injury, foot surgery, he is limited. Who else? Lawrence Seymour also missed some time while he was waiting on his eligibility decision, which kind of know how that's going right now. But with these absences, such as like Ryan Wingo and Emmett Mosley and some others, you've seen some of these younger receivers and more of the depth guys that you're really going to see down the road, not necessarily this year, but I'd say the next 2 to 3 years. These guys you're really going to be watching. They're getting their extra reps in this spring so far. And one that kind of translates right into what I was going to talk about. And that is Jermaine Bishop. I know I already have it pulled up on the screen, but Jermaine Bishop Jr. He's a freshman who's already flashed in a lot of early practices. He's an early enrollee who did join for the spring practices, and he stood out a lot in drills with his speed and separation abilities. When you do watch him, there's a lot of videos on him doing some routes on air on the field. Looks great. Looks great. It looks super fast. And I mean, based off what we've seen, I know it's not full pads, it's not full reps yet, but based off what we do see so far, he looks very good. He looks like he's ahead of the timeline as far as development goes, and he's still, like I said, just got on campus. Like he's been with Texas for what, 2 or 3 practices now, probably 4 by the time you're watching this. But yeah, he brings explosiveness off the line, deep threat potential, ability to play slot or outside. So I think we're going to see him a lot more than expected in 2026 because, like I said, you are getting some more reps, or he's getting some more reps. So I think that could translate over to him seeing some, I wouldn't say significant time, but you'll see him get some reps in the 2026 season, I think. Whereas earlier, I guess before these practices started, the whole expectation was, hey, he's just going to develop, probably won't see a snap this season. I think he'll get some snaps. Now, I don't know how much truth is that, or I don't know how much truth there is to that, but that's just my opinion. I do think he will get some snaps this upcoming season. Now, more outlook on the wide receiver room. Pretty sure you are familiar with Cam Coleman by now. If you've been up to date on anything going on in the camp so far, you know that Cam Coleman has absolutely shined. So based off what we hear so far, he seems like that next first round pick game changer receiver that every team in the country looks for, and it seems like Texas just landed their guy. Now, when we do look at what he was doing at Auburn and him, I guess his recruitment in the transfer portal, being only 19 years old still, he was pretty much, he had every tool that you wanted to see out of a wide receiver. He was just in a bad situation. Now he comes over to Texas, more premier school, I would say, more premier coaching as to what he had at Auburn, more, I guess, better team around him in general. I think Cam Coleman's going to absolutely thrive. I do think that he will be that next receiver that you go or that you really watch see get picked in the first round, such as those Justin Jefferson guys and such as those Jamar Chase guys. I think Cam Coleman really could live up to that type of potential. Now, they're saying he's a crazy hard practice player, which is always great to hear out of your star players because a lot of times when you're in college and these star players go out and they know they're a star player, they kind of have a little bit of an ego to them. Doesn't seem like Cam Coleman is that type. Seems like Cam Coleman is a hard worker, and I do know that Steve Sarkisian did say in a interview after one of the practices that Cam Coleman is one of the better practice players. That's great to hear. He was talked about in that talk, along with some other guys as well. But Cam Coleman really stood out to me as well as Colin Simmons, who we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But he's making extra efforts into learning the new offense that he's in. And we've seen videos of him finishing drills, running straight over to his new quarterback, Arch Manning, before the next drill starts. So in between that little tiny bit of time frame that you have, if you've ever played football, there's certain periods in practice, and you get like not even 5 minutes between those periods. I don't know how it is at Texas, but when I played, it was within 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes between the periods. You're kind of nonstop going. So we did see Cam Coleman in between periods go over, talk to Arch Manning, walk about 50 yards talking to him. So it just shows that he's a good, true team player. And I think he's going to translate and learn this offense very, very well. And I think he'll be a very big asset to this Texas offense next year. Now, the word is he hasn't let a single ball touch the ground so far, which I think a lot of Texas fans are going to be super thrilled to hear because there were a lot of drop issues last year. He's known for his crazy body control, twitchiness, which we've also seen showcased so far in like routes on air and stuff. So if you do go see some footage, you could find some of that. Super stoked. Can't wait to see Cam Coleman next year. I think there's real potential for him to be the best receiver in the country and a huge asset to this offense, like I did say. Now, another part on this offense that I think is a major upgrade that is going to be very fun is the running back room. So, veteran running backs. You have some of these transfers leading early reps, such as Raleek Brown. He's a breakout back from Arizona State who rushed for over 1,100 yards last season. You know that. And Hollywood Smothers as well. Well, I'll bring him up right here. Hollywood Smothers as well, who they stole from Alabama pretty much. It was that last-second decision. Hollywood was originally committed to Alabama. I don't know how much of a commitment there really was there, but he was committed to Alabama for a short period of time and then went over to Texas in the transfer portal. So, yeah, these are two considered front runners to be the primary backs in 2026 because they have great track records and, early reps in camp, obviously, but they were two of the top portal backs two of the top running backs in the entire transfer portal is basically what I'm trying to say. And, I don't think Texas is going to have a true bell cow this year. I think these are going to be a great 1-2 punch, these two guys. And you have two outstanding running backs who are leaps and bounds better than the room that you had from last year. I think you'll see Hollywood Smothers involved a lot in the passing game based off what you did see last season with him or these past few seasons with him and kind of what we've seen in camp so far. I do think that he will be heavily involved in the passing game, and Raleek Brown will probably be getting more of the, the most amount of touches, I would say. I would say Raleek Brown's going to end up with more touches, but Hollywood Smothers is going to be kind of like that Jameer. I think it's going to be a situation, if you do watch the Detroit Lions, you had David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs. David Montgomery they both ran the ball, obviously, but one was more involved in the passing game, one was more involved in like the short yardage downs or just whenever they needed to put him in. I think that's kind of what you're going to see. You're going to see something similar here with Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown. Super stoked for that as well. Now, one of the most trending topics going into this Texas camp and as of right now is Arch Manning. How's Arch Manning going to do? Because he's coming off what a lot of people would say disappointing season, but I was really thrilled with the growth that he showed down the stretch. I don't think it was as bad as what people say. Was it up to expectations? No. Was it as bad as people say? I don't think so. But this is a big storyline, Arch Manning. He had a minor foot procedure in January, and it was to fix a lingering issue. It was an issue that did linger from a Texas A&M game. I forgot. I think it was before he was even a starter, I believe. But yeah, I mean, it was lingering pretty much all last year. How much of that was affecting his game? Had to be some. I think it had to be some. But because of that, he's been limited in spring practice so far. Some words going around about Arch not throwing and routes on air and stuff like that, but that's false. I can say that he's been participating in routes on air and some other small drills, but just not in the media practices. You know, some practices they'll open up to the media. Most of Texas, or I think all of Texas practices so far has been open to the media, but they let Arch throw in little sessions that aren't allowed or allowing media in. I think it's pretty smart. It's smart for a quarterback coming off a procedure, coming off really with all that pressure on his back for no reason, I would say. So Arch has been throwing, but again, he's not 100% yet. This is an injury, like I said, has been lingering him for the pretty much all of last year. So once he's fully recovered, I think we'll see a lot more growth. And, he showed a lot of growth down the stretch last season. I think he's going to have a major bounce back season. But one other thing that I do want to talk about, this is more of a fun topic. I'm not saying it translates over to his game, but we're going to pull it up on Twitter right now. You see him in a visor. You see him in a visor. So this is just something fun to monitor. Arch has been rocking the visor in camp. Visor Arch Manning has arrived. Look good, play good. Very unusual coming from a Manning, as you did see Peyton Manning did wear the dark visor in a practice before. Never carried it into a game, but this that Arch is wearing is more of a game day type of visor. The clear visor that you see quarterbacks wear a lot. A lot of quarterbacks are really starting to wear, especially the younger guys. Very interesting topic. Very interesting topic. I know a lot of you don't care, but had to mention it. Had to mention it because it's unusual for Manning. And like I said, look good, feel good, play good. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Let's see how Visor Arch does next year. Let's see if that carries into the season at all. Now, staying on the quarterback topic, because there's not really too much to say about Arch Manning. I could go more, but I don't want to hold you here for too long. So the next one is the backup quarterback situation or the third string quarterback situation. Kind of both. Kind of got both going on right here. So, while Arch Manning is easing back in, KJ Lacey and Diabell have been taking a lot of first team reps in practice. This is a situation that I think is a lot more important than a lot of people are realizing because this is probably Arch's last year as a Longhorn. I think that's the expectations is get him to the NFL after this year because he is one of the top monitored quarterbacks going into the draft as of right now. Unless something crazy happens, I do think Arch will be in the NFL next year, and you're going to have an open quarterback spot. Now there's the transfer portal, so we don't know yet, but I think with these guys being able to get first team reps as of right now in practice with the first team guys, I think that's going to translate over into next year. So you're really going to have an idea of maybe who might be your quarterback going forward once Arch is gone. So we're talking a little bit more advanced. But as of right now, I still do think it's important because this is also a job that's open if Arch were to go down. If Arch were to go down, hopefully he doesn't. God willing he doesn't. But if he were to go down, this could be a major factor in how the season goes. So I think it's a tight race between KJ Lacey and Diabell. Diabell, obviously the true freshman coming in. Great quarterback prospect. Absolutely amazing quarterback prospect. But yeah, man, I think it's a tighter race than people realize. And this is something that's going to come down to the wire. Meaning all the way until next year, I think. I think that it's going to be a quarterback battle going into next season. It's not going to be something that's settled right now. But just something to monitor. I did want to just mention that. And by the way, I forgot to pull up Diabell, but there's Diabell. Now the next one is the defense. I want to talk a little bit about the defense, not too much. Now the new defensive coordinator, Will Muschamp, is installing a new scheme. Expectation is to be more aggressive SEC-style defense with more complex coverages, which you'll probably see more once we really get fully in pads. I mean, I know they're in pads already, or I believe they're in pads already. I can't remember, honestly. Maybe they're not. I can't remember. But once you really see the practices ramp up and it's not just a camp. So once we're full contact, I would say, you'll really see what Will Muschamp's going to bring. But he's a fiery guy who is going to bring the fire to a Texas defense that really needed it last year. Now, I think Will Muschamp's going to do a great job. just kind of giving some word on what to kind of expect later on in the camp. Nothing we've heard yet, other than he's been pretty loud in practice, which that's pretty known for Will Muschamp. He'll get in your face. He'll make you be pretty aggressive. Now, one player that I do want to talk about before we get out of here is Colin Simmons. So Colin Simmons is, based off what we hear, he's emerging as a true defensive leader. One of the best takeaways pretty much early in camp so far for Texas is Colin Simmons stepping into that leadership role. So he's reportedly been one of the most vocal players on defense. And, coaches have talked about this in practice, the intensity, the work ethic, setting the tone for the defensive front. He's also been lining up with multiple pass rush spots, not just a traditional edge. So in a system influenced by Will Muschamp, versatility and edge players is huge, and Simmons fits that perfectly. So if you can get a guy like Colin Simmons, who's probably your best defensive player, to step up and be that leader and take that extra step into first leadership and his game in general. Again, this is a big year for him, pivotal. No, I wouldn't say pivotal, but this is a big year for him going into the NFL draft as well. And obviously, this Texas team has massive expectations. You're expecting to go out and win a national championship. I think this Texas team is leaps and bounds better than what we saw last year with those high expectations as well. I think there's more of a shot this Texas team does it this year. And I'm absolutely excited. I haven't been this excited for a Texas football season in a long time. Now, like I said, not going to go too in depth on anything, but just wanted to kind of give you the rundown on what's going on so far. We'll keep you updated, so as we hear more, we'll break down some more. So yeah, I appreciate all you guys. If you did enjoy this and you are a Texas fan, I greatly appreciate it. If you did, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot. And we're going to keep pushing out a lot of Texas content. And we're going to keep updating you as we do hear more about these spring practices, or these spring camps. I'm sorry, I keep saying practices. Pretty much the same thing. But yeah, I greatly appreciate you guys. As always, you guys show me massive amounts of support on all the videos I do post, Texas content. So yeah, we're going to keep that coming. And yeah, I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.